The Galactic Council had seen everything, or so they thought. For thousands of years, ambassadors arrived with guards. They brought weapons. They brought armor. Some even brought small armies, disguised as security details. The Krelthar showed up with acid-spitting beetles, the size of wolves. The Vexorians wheeled in tanks of living venom that could melt through hull plating. The Thross brought creatures that could tear through blast doors with their bare claws. Every species understood the unspoken rule: show strength, prove you belong, make them respect you. Then humanity sent their first delegation to the council chambers, and they brought a 3-year-old child and a housecat. No guards, no weapons, no armor, just a toddler clutching a stuffed bear and a gray tabby cat that wouldn't stop meowing. The council chamber fell silent. 14 species, hundreds of diplomats, all staring at the human delegation like they'd lost their minds. Ambassador Kirish of the Vryn Dominion was the first to speak. "Where is your apex predator?" he demanded. The human ambassador, a woman named Sarah Chen, smiled. She pointed at the toddler. "Right there." Kirish's facial tendrils went rigid with confusion. "That is a juvenile," he said slowly. "A weak, defenseless offspring." Sarah's smile widened. "Exactly." The tabby cat chose that moment to jump onto the main conference table. It knocked over a ceremonial water pitcher, yawned, then curled up directly on top of the Krelthar ambassador's datapad. The Krelthar ambassador stared at the creature in horror. What is that?" he whispered. "That's Mr. Whiskers," Sarah said cheerfully. "He's a cat. We keep them in our homes, for fun." The council didn't understand, not yet, but over the next 6 months, they would learn something that would fundamentally change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. He would learn why humans are the only species that voluntarily lives with predators, why they keep the galaxy's most efficient killing machines as pets, and why bringing a toddler to a diplomatic summit wasn't stupidity. It was a threat, the most terrifying threat the council had ever received. But before we get to that, you need to understand what happened when the other species tried to figure out what humans were really showing them. Because what they discovered in human history files made some ambassadors request immediate transport off the station. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Galactic Council operates on a simple principle: power is everything. For 12,000 years, species announced their strength through their apex predators. These weren't just animals. They were living resumes. The Krelthar brought razor wings, 8-foot-tall birds with beaks that could punch through starship hulls. The Vexorians brought tide serpents, 50-foot monsters that hunted in the crushing depths of their ocean world. The Thross brought ironbacks, armored beasts that could survive direct hits from plasma cannons. Every delegation spent months preparing their predator for display. They trained them, fed them, made sure they looked impressive. Because in council politics, your predator represented your people. A weak predator meant a weak species. A dangerous predator meant respect. It was that simple. Until the humans arrived. The council reviewed Earth's file before the meeting. They expected something impressive. Earth's gravity was high. Its atmosphere was oxygen-rich, which usually meant aggressive biology. Its surface was 70% water with massive continents, perfect conditions for apex predators. The betting pools started immediately. The Vryn bet on some kind of megafauna, something with claws and teeth. The Krelthar predicted a flying predator, given Earth's thick atmosphere. The Thross assumed humans would bring multiple predators, as a show of dominance. They were all wrong. When Sarah Chen walked into the council chamber holding hands with little Emma Martinez, the room went quiet. Emma was wearing light-up sneakers. She had chocolate on her face. She was humming a song about wheels on a bus. Behind them walked Marcus Webb, the human security chief. He was carrying a pet carrier. Inside was Mr. Whiskers. The cat was not impressed. Ambassador Kirish stood up. "Where is your predator?" he asked again. Sarah gestured to Emma. "This is Emma. She's 3 years old." "That is offspring," Kirish said flatly. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "Where is the adult predator that protects your offspring?" Sarah paused. She looked at Marcus, then back at Kirish. "We don't bring predators to protect our children," she said quietly. "We teach our children to protect themselves." The implications of that statement wouldn't hit the council for several more hours, but they were about to get their first demonstration. Emma had wandered over to the Krelthar delegation's razor wing. The creature was in a containment field, but Emma could see it clearly. She pressed her face against the barrier. "Birdie," she shouted happily. The razor wing turned toward her. Its eyes locked onto Emma. Every Krelthar in the room tensed. Razor wings have perfect predator instincts. They can sense fear. They attack weakness. The bird took one step toward Emma, then another. Its beak opened slightly. Emma giggled. She waved at it. The razor wing stopped. Its head tilted. Something in its ancient predator brain was confused. This small creature showed no fear, no defensive posturing, just curiosity and joy. The razor wing sat down. One of the Krelthar handlers gasped. "Impossible," he breathed. "Razor wings never submit to." He stopped, because Emma had moved on. She was now standing in front of the Vexorian delegation's containment tank. Inside was a juvenile tide serpent, only 3 feet long, but already showing signs of the apex predator it would become. Emma tapped on the glass. "Fish," she announced. The serpent lunged at the barrier. Emma laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. The Vexorian ambassador's scales turned pale blue, the color of deep concern. "If you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this." That night, the council's xenobiology team started pulling human files. They wanted to understand what they'd witnessed. Why did a human child show zero fear response to apex predators? The answer they found was worse than they imagined. Human children don't have predator recognition. Not naturally. They have to be taught what's dangerous. Dr. Krelthar, the council's lead xenobiologist, found video files from Earth, the security camera footage from something called a zoo. In one video, a human toddler escaped from his parents. He ran directly up to a barrier, holding a creature called a gorilla. Gorillas are Earth primates. The males can weigh 400 pounds of pure muscle. They can lift 10 times their body weight. The toddler banged on the glass. The gorilla charged the barrier. The toddler laughed and banged harder. Dr. Krelthar watched 15 more videos. Toddlers approaching tigers. Toddlers trying to pet wolves. Toddlers climbing into enclosures with animals that could kill them in seconds. All of them smiling. None of them afraid. They're born without threat assessment. Dr. Krelthar reported to the council. Their young will approach anything, touch anything, try to befriend anything. Ambassador Kirish leaned forward. Then how do they survive? Dr. Krelthar pulled up another file. Because adult humans never let them out of their sight. The video showed a human park, dozens of children playing, and around the perimeter, parents watched with an intensity that made the council uncomfortable. Every adult's eyes tracked every child, constantly, without break. One child stumbled near a pond. 3 adults moved before the child even fell. Human adults maintain threat awareness for their offspring, Dr. Krelthar explained. They act as an external threat detection system, until the children's brains develop enough to recognize danger. This happened around age 6 or 7, apparently. Until then, human children would happily walk up to anything that moved. The Thross ambassador cleared his throat. "This explains the child," he said. "But what about the small predator?" He meant the cat. Mr. Whiskers had caused a diplomatic incident that afternoon. He'd escaped from his carrier during a council session. He'd stalked the Vrin ambassador's ceremonial tail feathers, pounced on them. The Vrin ambassador nearly activated his defense implants. Sarah had to explain that the cat was just playing. But when the xenobiology team researched cats, they found something that made the toddler look normal by comparison. Cats are obligate carnivores. They must eat meat to survive. Their hunting instinct is hardwired at a genetic level. A house cat's brain is structured almost identically to a tiger's brain. Same predatory pathways, same hunting behaviors. The only difference is size. Dr. Krelthar pulled up Earth statistics. House cats kill between 1 and 4 billion birds every year. Just in one country called the United States. They kill another 6 to 22 billion small mammals annually. These are not domesticated animals, Dr. Krelthar said slowly. These are active predators that humans voluntarily keep in their living spaces. The council chamber was silent. How many humans keep these creatures? Someone asked. Dr. Krelthar checked his notes. Approximately 600 million cats live in human homes, he said. Humans feed them, shelter them, provide medical care. But why? The Krelthar ambassador demanded. What purpose do they serve? Dr. Krelthar pulled up one final video. It showed a human woman sitting on a couch. A cat was curled up in her lap, purring. The woman was stroking its fur gently. She looked peaceful, content. According to human sources, Dr. Krelthar said quietly, they keep predators as companions, because it makes them happy. The implications of that statement hung in the air. A species that befriends predators for emotional comfort. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. Ambassador Kirish couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the child and the cat. At 0300 station time, he accessed Earth's cultural database. What he found made him call an emergency council session. They have a word, he announced. A specific word for what they do. The other ambassadors waited. Domestication. The Thross ambassador's translator struggled with the term. Explain, he said. Kirish pulled up his research. Humans don't just live alongside predators, he said. They actively change predator behavior across generations. He showed them the timeline. 30,000 years ago, humans encountered wolves. Wolves are pack hunters, apex predators in their regions. They compete with humans for prey. Most species would exterminate competing predators. Humans befriended them. They selectively bred wolves for specific traits. Kirish explained. Loyalty, obedience, gentleness with human children. He pulled up images. A wolf, then what humans called a golden retriever. Same species, he said. 15,000 years apart. The differences were staggering. The wolf looked like a killer, all teeth and muscle and primal hunger. The golden retriever looked soft, friendly, safe. Humans created that, Kirish said. They took an apex predator and reshaped it into a companion. The Vexorian ambassador's scales flushed dark purple. That's genetic manipulation, she said. It's illegal under council law. Not the way they did it, Kirish replied. They used selective breeding over hundreds of generations. No gene editing, no artificial manipulation, just patience and selection. He pulled up more examples. Cats, also domesticated, though less thoroughly than dogs. Horses, once wild prey animals, now partners in human labor. Cattle, sheep, goats, chickens, even fish. Humans had domesticated hundreds of species, but the council wasn't prepared for what came next. They also domesticated plants, Kirish said. He showed images of wheat, corn, rice. These plants evolved to spread their seeds naturally, he explained. Humans changed them to produce larger seeds in greater quantities. They turned wild grasses into the foundation of their civilization. The Krelthar ambassador was shaking. How long did this take? He asked. Approximately 12,000 years, Kirish said. Starting from when humans developed agriculture. 12,000 years. The same amount of time the Galactic Council had existed, while other species were building spaceships and exploring their solar systems. Humans were reshaping the biology of their entire planet. The Thross ambassador stood up. We need to see their homeworld, he said. Directly. 3 days later, a council observation team arrived at Earth. They expected cities, technology, standard development markers. What they found was something else entirely. They flew over human settlements. Every single one had green spaces, parks, gardens, trees planted in deliberate rows. They reshaped their environment to include other species. The pilot noted. They observed a place called Central Park in a city called New York. 840 acres of managed wilderness, in the middle of one of Earth's largest urban centers. Why? The Vexorian observer asked. Why? Waste valuable land. They landed to investigate. The park was full of humans and animals. Squirrels ran past humans without fear. Birds landed on benches where humans sat. Dogs played in designated areas while humans watched.
They're coexisting, Dr. Kelleth said softly. Predators, prey, and humans, all in the same space, all of them comfortable. The observation team spent a week on Earth. They visited farms where humans raised animals for food, but also kept some animals as companions. They saw families with dogs that slept in their children's beds, cats that had their own furniture, birds in cages with doors left open. They could leave, one observer noted. The birds, they could fly away, but they don't, Dr. Kelleth said. He was staring at a human child playing with a dog. The child was being rough, pulling the dog's ears. The dog just licked the child's face. They've created something we never imagined, Dr. Kelleth continued. A planet where predator and prey choose to stay near humans, where animals that could survive in the wild prefer to live in human homes. So what does all this mean for us today? The council reconvened after the Earth observation mission. Everyone expected a straightforward report. Instead, Dr. Kelleth stood before them with fear in his eyes. We missed something, he said. Something critical. He pulled up human evolutionary history. 2 million years ago, humans were prey, he began. They were hunted by lions, leopards, hyenas, and crocodiles. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor. The council knew this already. So they developed tools, someone said. Yes, Dr. Kelleth agreed. But that's not what made them apex predators. He zoomed in on the human brain scan. This is what made them apex. The scan showed unusual development in specific regions. Humans have the most sophisticated social bonding mechanisms in Earth's evolutionary history, Dr. Kelleth explained. They form alliances not just with family groups, but with strangers, with other species, even with plants. He pulled up the comparison. Most predators hunt alone, or in small packs of related individuals. Humans hunt in coordinated groups of up to hundreds of unrelated individuals. They plan, they communicate, they adapt strategies in real time. The Thross ambassador leaned forward. Many species do this, he said. Not like humans, Dr. Kelleth replied. He showed footage from Earth's history. Humans hunting mammoths, creatures twice their size with thick armor and dangerous tusks. The humans didn't overpower the mammoth. They exhausted it. They chased it for hours, days sometimes. Humans have unusual endurance for a pursuit predator. They can run for hours without stopping. Most Earth predators sprint, then rest. Humans just keep going. Persistence hunting, Dr. Kelleth said. They outlast their prey. But that wasn't the revelation that frightened him. Watch this, he said. The footage showed a human wounded during a mammoth hunt. The other humans didn't leave him behind. They carried him, protected him, shared their food with him. Humans care for their injured, Dr. Kelleth said. Most predators abandon wounded pack members, the Krelthar ambassador noted. Exactly, Dr. Kelleth said. But humans don't. He pulled up archaeological evidence. Human skeletons from 50,000 years ago, showing healed injuries, broken bones that had mended, infections that had been survived. This man had a shattered leg, Dr. Kelleth said, pointing to one skeleton. He couldn't hunt, couldn't gather, couldn't contribute to his group's survival. But his bones show he lived for years after the injury. Someone fed him, protected him, kept him alive. The council chamber was silent. Now combine that with domestication, Dr. Kelleth continued. Humans extend this care to other species. He showed images of human veterinary hospitals. Humans spending thousands of currency units to heal injured animals. Animals that weren't even theirs. Stray cats, wild birds, injured deer. They rescue predators that pose danger to them, Dr. Kelleth said. They rehabilitate them and release them back into the wild, even though those predators might hunt humans later. The Vexorian ambassador's scales turned white. What kind of apex predator saves its competition? She whispered. Dr. Kelleth pulled up his final piece of evidence. A human child with a cat. The same image that started everything. That's not a display of weakness, he said quietly. It's a demonstration of their most terrifying trait. Humans bond with anything. They will adopt orphaned predators and raise them as family. They will feed animals that steal their food. They will risk their lives to save creatures that might kill them. And they do all of this instinctively. He looked at each ambassador. When humans brought a toddler and a cat to our council chambers, They weren't showing us their apex predator. They were showing us that they've evolved beyond needing one. Because humans turned themselves into something more dangerous than any single apex predator could ever be. They became a species that makes apex predators want to protect them. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The Council spent 3 months analyzing the human delegation's message. What they realized changed galactic politics forever. Every other species brought predators to prove strength. Humans brought proof that they'd transcended that entirely. Ambassador Karish wrote a report that became required reading for all diplomatic corps. Humans weaponized compassion. It began. The report outlined the strategic implications. When the Krelthar bring a razor wing, they show they can control one dangerous creature. When humans bring a child, they show they've created an entire planet where humans and predators coexist peacefully. That child represented 30,000 years of evolutionary success. Success built not on domination, but on cooperation. Mr. Whiskers represented something even more profound. Humans keep predators in their homes not because they control them, Karish wrote, but because the predators choose to stay. This was power that couldn't be measured in weapons or armor. This was influence, the ability to make other species want to be near you, want to help you, want to protect you. The Council started reviewing their interactions with humanity more carefully. They found patterns. During trade negotiations, human delegations always brought food, not just for humans, for every species present. They researched dietary needs in advance, prepared appropriate meals. Breaking bread, humans called it. The act of eating together as a trust-building exercise. During military briefings, human commanders insisted on learning the names of allied soldiers, not just their ranks, their actual names, their families, their hobbies, their stories. They personalize warfare, a Thross military analyst reported. They turned strategic alliances into personal relationships. This made human military alliances unusually strong. Human soldiers would risk their lives for allied troops from other species, not because of strategic value, but because they'd learned those troops' names, shared meals with them, became friends. The Council also noticed how humans handled conflict. When trade disputes arose, human negotiators didn't immediately threaten sanctions. They asked questions. What do you need? How can we help? What would make this work for everyone? It seemed weak at first, until the Council realized that most disputes with humans ended with just humans had made the other party want to cooperate. They'd built relationships before conflicts arose. They play a longer game than we do, the Vexorian trade minister admitted. They're thinking about partnerships that will last generations, while we're thinking about quarterly trade margins. This strategy showed up in human colonization patterns too. Most species terraformed planets to match their biology. Humans adapted to local conditions. They studied native, worked with them instead of replacing them. On one world with giant herbivores, humans built settlements that didn't interfere with migration patterns. On another with aggressive fauna, humans created mutual territories, instead of exterminating threats. They're doing on colony worlds what they did on Earth, Dr. Krelthar explained, finding ways to coexist rather than conquer. The long-term implications worried some council members. In 500 years, humans will have alliances with dozens of species, the Thross ambassador predicted, not because they dominated them, because those species chose to align with humanity. It was already happening. 3 minor species had requested human advisors for diplomatic training. 5 others had adopted human-style cultural exchange programs. 1 species even started a pet adoption initiative based on Earth's model. They're not just joining galactic civilization, Karish wrote in his final report. They're reshaping it to operate on their principles. And they're doing it so subtly that most species don't realize it's happening. The scariest part, humans probably didn't realize it either. This was just how they operated naturally. 30,000 years of evolution had programmed them to build relationships, to turn threats into friends, to cooperate with anything willing to cooperate back. If this opened your eyes, 6 months after the initial council meeting, something unprecedented happened. The Krelthar requested human assistance. Their homeworld was facing an ecological crisis. A pest species was destroying their crops. Billions of Krelthar faced starvation. They tried everything: chemical treatments, biological weapons, orbital bombardment. Nothing worked. The pests adapted faster than the Krelthar could develop new countermeasures. Sarah Chen arrived with her team. They studied the problem for 2 weeks. Then they brought their solution: cats. 500 cats from Earth. The Krelthar were insulted at first. How would small predators solve what their technology couldn't? The humans released the cats near affected crop zones. Within 3 months the pest population dropped by 60%. Within 6 months the crisis was over. The cats had hunted the pests to manageable levels. But here's what shocked the Krelthar most. The cats didn't just hunt. They thrived. They adapted to Krelthar's environment, integrated with the local ecosystem. Some Krelthar farmers started feeding them, then sheltering them. Within a year, cats were living in Krelthar homes. They purr. One Krelthar farmer told researchers, "The vibration is soothing." Sarah Chen smiled when she heard that. "That's how it starts," she said. Ambassador Karish understood then. The human delegation hadn't brought a child and a cat as a display of strength. They'd brought them as an invitation. "Join us," the gesture said. "Join a civilization built on cooperation instead of domination. One where strength comes from relationships, not weapons. Where apex predators curl up in your lap and purr." The council chamber looked different now. The Krelthar delegation had started bringing younger members to meetings, not for training, for exposure. They wanted their youth to learn human-style diplomacy early. The Vexorians had requested consultants to help them develop environmental coexistence programs. Even the Thross, the most militant species on the council, had started asking questions about human conflict resolution strategies. Emma Martinez, now 3.5 years old, attended her second council session. She drew pictures during the boring parts. One picture showed stick figures of different species holding hands. Sarah Chen kept it. Years later, it would become the unofficial symbol of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative, a program designed on human principles, where strength meant building bridges, not walls, where the goal wasn't to prove you were the strongest predator, but to prove you didn't need to be, because you had friends who'd fight beside you anyway. So what did we just learn? First, humans became apex predators, not through physical dominance, but through relationship building. They turned wolves into dogs, wild cats into companions. Even their prey animals chose to stay near them. Second, human children are born without fear of predators, because human communities evolved to provide protection. This created a species that approaches the unknown with curiosity instead of aggression. Third, humans weaponized compassion on a strategic level. They build alliances through personal connection. They solve conflicts by making others want to cooperate. And this approach is reshaping galactic politics faster than most species realize. The story of Emma and Mr. Whiskers isn't just about a diplomatic meeting. It's about a fundamental difference in how humans see the universe. Where other species see competition, humans see potential partnerships. Where others see threats, humans see opportunities for cooperation. This mindset took 30,000 years to develop on Earth. But in galactic terms, humans have only just arrived. Imagine what the next 1,000 years will look like. If you found this story mind-blowing, hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into humanity's unique place in science fiction every week. Stories that make you see human nature in completely new ways. Next video, we're covering why humans are the only species that runs for fun, and why that fact terrifies military strategists across 3 galaxies. You won't believe what humans consider recreational activity. Drop a comment and tell me, would you adopt a cat if you were an alien species meeting humans for the first time? Or would you be like the Krelthar and think humans were insane? I read every comment and respond to as many as I can. This community is built on the same principle as the story we just covered: connection, conversation, shared curiosity. Before you go, here's something to think about. The human delegation strategy worked because they understood something most species miss. True strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you can create. The Krelthar showed they could control one apex predator. Humans showed they created an entire civilization, where apex predators protect human children. That's not weakness dressed up as diplomacy. That's the most powerful threat imaginable. We're capable of making anything care about us, even species that should logically see us as competition or prey. That's the real message Emma and Mr. Whiskers delivered. Not look how weak we are, but look how many things choose to protect us. Think about that next time your cat curls up in your lap, or your dog greets you like you're the most important thing in their world. You're participating in a 30,000-year-old evolutionary strategy, one that took humanity from prey to apex, not through fangs or claws, but through friendship. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one, and remember we're all in this together, just like humans and their house cats.